Welcome everybody back to Boosted Motion, guys, and today I actually want to talk to you guys the differences between dyno tunes versus remote tunes. Before I get into the video, guys, please add me at Boosted Motion on IG and Facebook, and also boostedmotion@gmail.com for any questions. But otherwise than that, guys, let's get into it. Alright guys, so I want to talk about some of the differences between dyno tuning and also remote tuning. So let me just break it down in this video. Let's get right into it. So number one, let's start with remote tuning. Remote tuning is actually very easy and accessible. This is when you pretty much buy a tune, or you can buy a tuning service from either a company or a person that gets your car tuned, right? And they'll send you some information so you can pretty much download the ECU software and all that information, and then send that information to them or software. They'll make the correction to the software, usually a fueling and timing, blah, 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 right? And then they'll be able to hack back into your ECU, right? And then they'll upload you a base map, right? Now, usually with these base map, it depends on the tuner. Now, you have some tuners that are just, let's just say a guy, a mad scientist behind a laptop, and they can try to modify from there because, you know, some people just have that information on learning how to tune. There's also other tuners who may have the car. So, for instance, I could be a tuner and I could have, let's say, a Q50 and I tune it myself. So, I would be more familiar with tuning that car than the person who's never owned the car at all. Doesn't mean they don't understand tuning. They just don't have the car at all. I have the car. Or it could be a company. Now, companies are usually the people who buy the car and they develop pretty much base maps for these cars because they have the car in possession and they try different combinations of parts and modifications to the car, pretty much to the point that they know the car enough that they could pretty much center it all, like, hey, listen, this is a good starting map, see how your car runs, and then they could just send you a second or third or fourth stage based on your modifications to the car and fueling. Now, usually with the remote tune too, it's really good because all three of these tuners, they can be able to see drivability issues. They'll tell you to do the car startups. They'll tell you how the car drives, going through different gearing. They'll also want to see how the car is shifting between a high load and low load from first to second to seventh gear, whatever happens. They want to know the drivability. And then also they'll actually do data logs where you're going to be doing third gear or fourth gear or maybe even fifth gear pulls on the public street or empty airport or something like that. But that's not much places in the United States you can do that, right? So that's some of the advantages and disadvantages of, or just some of the information when it comes to remote tuning. Dyno tuning is it's almost as similar, but not as similar. I would say when it comes to dyno tuning, they really can't assess a lot of drivability issues because they're on rollers. So they can try their best to replicate it by doing launches on the dyno, but not a lot of dynos you can be able to do that. And it's very hard on the dyno, and it can be very hard on the car, which is weird, but it's just the car on the dyno won't translate to the car on the street. That's just how it is, right? Also, because the dyno is such a controlled environment, there's gonna be so much other things that they can't account for, like outside temperature. You're gonna be sitting in a hot room with fans blowing on the car. That's not really how it's gonna be in the real world when you're going 60, 70 miles an hour. Usually it's gonna be a lot more high pressure hitting the front of the car. So a lot of different factors can happen and change with it. Now, what I would say the advantages of a dyno tune is the tuner is right there with you. They can make the instant changes right then and there to the car and then rerun the car and see if it made it better or worse immediately. With the remote tuning, you're not going to have that. You're going to have to wait a day or two or maybe even a week. It all depends on the tuner on if you can get the new file again. And once they send it to you, you're going to have to go back outside, download the car again and see if it's running right and send it back to them until you're happy. Not saying you can't do that with the dyno tune, but the dyno tune will be an hour to two, them fine-tuning the car, trying to get the parameters correct based on what they have and what they can do. But that is actually just mainly it, guys. It's that short. Those are some of the pros and cons, just the information when it comes to the two. I mean, remote tuning also usually could be cheaper because you don't have to pay for dyno time. You don't have to pay for a shop to use their rollers, whatever the case might be, or the tuner doesn't have to pay for it unless they already work at that shop, and then they can still charge you more. So remote tuning usually will be cheaper too, depending on the price of the shop or the tuner or whatever the case might be. But the dyno, yeah, dynos are usually going to be more expensive, so it is what it is. It just happens. That's just part of life. Now let's get back to some of the pros though. So because you have the car strapped to the dyno and you have the tuner there, they can make the changes immediately to the car. Any hiccups they see in the car, they can alleviate and fix it right then and there. That's the good thing about having a tuner right then and there. And it's actually a lot quicker process. An hour, maybe up to 2 hours, and you're done. Compared to weeks of having to send back dialogues back and forth and finding a road to go down or whatever it is. It's just more dangerous. I like the idea of it being controlled. But I gotta say this about right now at this point in the video. All tuners aren't created equal. That's just, all tuners are not created equal, and not all shops are created equal. So some shops will do some things like this. For instance, let's say I have right now Q50, and let's say I wanted to use a tuning program and I started tuning my own car. Now, that means I'm new to tuning, but I'm learning my car and my platform. And that means that once I learn through tuning my car, I can tune other people's Q50 Q60s too with the VR30. But then you have companies out there that will buy this car and they're tuning these cars and they're developing products for it, which means that they would be way more advanced than me because I'm just a regular tuner. But also they put the money and the R&D behind tuning this car, which means their remote tunes will be a lot better than mine. Just saying, that's just my opinion, but theirs will be a lot better because they tried almost every combination of fuel, timing. They sat there and they wanted to finalize it and make it good. Me, doesn't mean I can't do it, but I just don't have the ability of be able to go as deep as they would go. Or you have some tuners who don't even have the platform at all. Some of these tuners, they could learn the software and they just know how the car runs and just make adjustments and just try to give you a safe tune. These people, I'm not saying they're bad tuners, whatever the case might be, but these are kind of the risky ones because they could maximize the performance of your car, but they also could put you in harm's way because they don't have the car. They're not familiar with the car. So at the end of the day, remote tunes and dyno tunes can be different, but it can be the same. They're both two good beasts if you want to sit there and say it. They both have their pros and cons. Both ways your car is getting maximized. But somebody will sit there and ask me though, but Boost, if I had to get remote tune from one tuner, but then also if he just coming to get a dyno tune, which one would be better? I would sit there and say in this video, get the dyno tune. Reason being is he'll be able to maximize the performance of the car first. Then what's going to happen after is you're going to drive the car. If there's any issues on drivability from how the transmission may drive, how it may feel during gear shifts, launching, then that's when he'll take a look. You'll send him a data log of it, let's say launching the car, and then he'll make the adjustments based on the throttle position and other parameters of the car to bring down the amount of torque, as I would say, on the car so you can launch properly. So it's just a more of an easier way for him to clean up the drivability issues. But if you got a remote tune, you actually kind of like nip it in the bud immediately, but you're not really, I wouldn't say you're not really optimizing it all the way. Only reason is because yes, it is drivability. You got a street tune, but it's not very easy to find places to go 480 to 120, 130. At least 5 or 6 times, and then send it again, then do it 5 or 6 times another day after. It's just you just never know. But otherwise than that, guys, just wanted to give this short video on some of the difference of dyno tuning versus remote tuning, the pros and cons, and some of the issues you may run into. But otherwise than that, guys, if you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe with the bell notification, hit all. I appreciate that very much. You can contact me at Boost Emotion on Instagram and Facebook, and boostemotion@gmail.com. Otherwise than that, guys, you have a good morning, good afternoon, good night. Thank you, guys. You have a good day.